Hello, and welcome to the Practice Marketing Podcast, highlighting successful strategies from North America's fastest growing clinics and experts so you can learn from their wins and power your practice growth. Hi, I'm your host, Neil Trickett, CEO of Practice Promotions. And today's focus, we're going to talk about marketing to athletes and student athletes here with Jan Schorpion here with St. Pete Physical Therapy. He has a stunning and successful practice in beautiful St. Petersburg, Florida. And Jan does a great job attracting student athletes and athletes to his therapy practice. Today, he's going to share with us on how you can market your sports therapy or performance programs at your practice. So, Jan, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. I'm excited to be on today, Neil.
Awesome. So let's dive right in here. You have this amazing physical therapy practice that you built. I've seen the pictures. It's beautiful inside. So congratulations on all the hard work you've done to make it look so inviting and a wonderful gym space and everything there. But I'm curious, is St. Pete PT always focused on sports therapy?
Yes, so St. Pete Physical Therapy. I founded the company just about 2 years ago now, and with the idea to focus on sports physical therapy. Been a physical therapist for 16 years now, and pretty much always, besides 2 of those years, always been in private practice. So very much in the sports medicine orthopedic world. And the last several years, I was in a very successful private practice, but we were seeing a lot of patients with a lot of different conditions. Almost, we would get almost anybody in the clinic that would be somewhat appropriate. And I was doing a lot of marketing to physicians, and over time just got tired of that, and decided that been in the profession for quite a while now and really wanted to focus on sports physical therapy and being a board certified sports specialist myself.
Mhm.
Wanted to dig into that further. So from the beginning, the goal was to really market to athletes, student athletes, but also active adults. In the end, it really create a population where activity is centered around what they do in their free time, whether that's team sport, individual sport, just staying
Mhm.
active, but people that take really good care of their health.
Awesome. I love it. And so what would you say your percentage of patients that are student athletes or ones that are more like active adults in sports therapy?
I'd say we're probably somewhere between 70 to 80% of athletes. And that includes our student athletes,
Mhm.
which definitely during the summer months, we see a much higher volume of student athletes than during the school year. Comes with the athletic population, right? School is busy and sports and stuff. And I'm sure we'll dig into more why that is. And then, our active population, our active adults, runners, triathletes, swimmers, tennis players, soccer players. Um, you know, a lot of variety in terms of sports.
Absolutely. Yeah. And definitely, you're in that area too, where it's like a bit of a mecca, right? For athletes, a lot of spring training, a lot of tennis pros and all kinds of different athletes come to flock to the Florida warm weather for training, right?
Yeah,
So I'm kind of curious with you, like what do you most enjoy about working with student athletes?
I love the challenge. It's different every time they come in, and I think that's what makes working with the athletic population special. Is most of them are still involved in their sport, unless of course they're dealing with a significant injury that they're not able to play after surgery, ACL surgery, or whatever it may be. But a lot of times they're still involved with their sport to a certain capacity, and it's the challenge of how do we navigate that? Can we keep you playing and at the same time get you better as well? And of course, it'd be easy if they took time away from the sport, and then it would make our job easier. But that's the nature of sports.
Right.
But really, growing up, I was always into sports. Always loved sports. Played soccer as my main sport growing up, and then as I got into my 20s, started running and cycling a lot more, and got into triathlons. And yeah, just always have enjoyed sports. So just being around that community, and I love learning about different sports as well. I find the body just to be fascinating, and all the things that it can do. The different sports, the overhead sports, the kicking sports, running, biking, like how we can train ourselves to reach new levels in sports. And I love seeing that at all different ages, whether you're 15, 20, or in your 50s, or even in your 70s, and you're still running, 5Ks, 10Ks, half marathons. I love it.
Yeah, I love that too. And obviously, you've got your specialty certification in sports medicine there. And I'm curious, like with your staff, there must be, I'd imagine there's a nuance to working with this type of audience, right? This type of public, sorry, where they need there's a lot of things to evaluate, to balance, to understand. How have you kind of coached your team over the years? Is there any kind of ways that you like to approach things compared to just orthopedic?
Yeah, well, I'm lucky in that I've been able to assemble a great staff when it comes to that. So myself, just always been in sports. When I started my career, I worked in a private practice where we saw a lot of baseball players, high school. This was back in Miami. A lot of college players from the University of Miami. High school baseball was huge over there, and then the owner of the business was involved in Major League Baseball as well. So we often saw professional baseball players in there. So that kind of got me started in the sports world, and then started working with local high schools as well. Eventually, got my SES to be able to be on the field and just delve more into the sports world.
Mhm.
And then specifically here at St. Pete Physical Therapy, I've been lucky to get a great staff together where do what I do, and then one of my other PTs, he was a collegiate soccer player, so he at the Division 1 level, so he understands what it has to do with sports. And our other PT, because there's two other physical therapists that we have over here, she did professional bodybuilding, so she really knows that realm, and of course comes from a competitive world as well, has dealt with many injuries, and she actually overcame a bunch of injuries doing the bodybuilding. So the sports mindset is very much swayed in that way. And so I've been very lucky to be able to assemble a great staff, and they all think, or we all think alike, in terms of that sports and performance physical therapy, and that physical
Yeah.
therapy goes beyond your traditional rehab. There's so much more that we can do beyond that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you bring up a good point there, and that if you're looking to bring a sports program into your practice, right? You don't want to just hire like an acute care therapist who wants to start to get into sports, because they need that background. They need that. There's a different mentality, right? The sports
Correct.
mentality, right? There's very competitive nature type people usually that you're dealing with, right? So you have to have
Correct.
that ability to work with them, control them, help them understand, what they can, and really stop them from what they want to be able to do. Like, okay, we need to rest here, or we need to kind of alter what you're doing right now. Don't go and break it again, kind of thing.
Yep.
So I would imagine you probably found that out with, again, attracting the right people to work for you. Having that level of experience helps you implement a much better program.
Yeah, exactly. It's exactly what you said. It's sometimes you have to push an athlete more, and sometimes, and that's I think the challenge with working with athletes. They want to do more, but it's our job to hold them back and to figure out what is best for you based on when do they have games, when is practice, are they coming in before or after practice, how was their practice yesterday, and it's always been my mindset. What we do today has got to make you better tomorrow.
Mhm.
So the work that we put in today, you still have to, or the patient, the athlete, they likely have to go to practice tomorrow, or they want to play a game, or they want to go to the gym, or whatever it may be. And what we do, it's got to be constructive to that, and not take away from their performance on the next day. So it's knowing their schedules. It's about communication. It's dialogue with them and understanding what is best for them that day, and that may be different today than it is next week when they come in. So we have to be flexible on our feet, and it helps, like you mentioned, to have the right mindset in here for that,
Yeah.
because it's not just okay, we did these exercises last or today, let's do the same exact thing next week. It could be a whole different program that we're doing. So we have to be
Mhm.
quick on our feet, and be able to think that way.
Yeah, that's a great point. Like, I'd imagine that the programs, plan of care and everything adapts a lot faster, right, than like your traditional orthopedic injury, or if it's someone who's not as much of an active adult, or active adult athlete. Um, that it sounds like that plan of care does change a lot more rapidly, and you have to adapt a lot faster to those things.
Yeah, and then working with athletes too is it could be a shoulder, and well, 1 week, and next day is my knee's bothering me a little bit. Can we take a look at that? And of course, depending on if they use insurance or not, we have to. It's still a medical profession. We still have to navigate that, and be compliant with everything. But that's okay. Now we have to maybe switch a little bit, and let's incorporate a little bit of the knee injury or the knee pain that you're having, while still maintaining focus on our last work that we did.
Mhm.
So it's always evolving, but that's what makes it fun and challenging, and that's why I show up here every day and love what I do.
I love it. Awesome. And so, uh, for someone who's looking at implementing more of a sports type program or performance program into their clinic, is there good opportunities in this? Do you find that there's like differences in reimbursement for athletes, maybe because they're more private insurance, or do you get more kind of cash pay patients come in? Just kind of curious on that side of it.
Yeah, on the insurance side, there's no difference, right? So the insurance side it's the same. But what is nice about it is that there are more people willing to pay cash, and that's the great thing too. And that's part of going back to what kind of how we started the conversation on where I wanted to go with this business as well. I was tired of marketing to physicians and kind of relying on somebody else sending me business, and I wanted to start marketing directly to the people. And with my background, and what's easier than marketing to athletes, easier said than done, but it's they're out there, and there's so many out there, and they want to keep playing their sport. They want to stay active, so they are very likely to seek you out on their own. And then they're willing to pay cash for that as well, for
Mhm.
those whose insurance that we don't take. So from that point of view, it is very nice.
Yeah, great job on that. And I just did a podcast on this, and the opportunities that are available in our industry, it's very easy for people to get caught up in the negative, right? The challenges of reimbursement and the insurance headaches. But we got to realize that there's a massive growing health and wellness industry, right? And we see that with all kinds of other service lines and services out there that support this industry, and people wanting to be healthier, people wanting to have more fitness in their life. And there's a lot of people that are active adults, athletes, and like you said, there's that type of population is willing to pay more out of pocket, right, for cash services if you have the right kind of services for them. So I think there's a large opportunity within that market for our profession. You just got to kind of add these programs within your practice to be able to offer that. And so I'm kind of curious, Jan, you've done a lot here over the years to position yourself and market yourself to athletes and coaches and parents. And so what do you do a little bit differently as you approach marketing for that kind of audience?
It's being part of the community. It's marketing, like you mentioned, it's marketing to the coaches, it's marketing to the parents, especially if you are looking to target that high school population. Um, the parents are the decision makers, right? They're the ones who are going to be paying for the session. So you have to get to them with your marketing techniques. And when it comes to athletes, the I find the easiest way to do that is through the coaches, get to know the coaches. So personally, we have sponsored teams around here because that makes access to everybody easier, and
Mhm.
it makes us it's an easier pathway for them to get their injured players into a PT or into rehab or into our strength and conditioning program or so. And for us, the benefit is we have direct access to the coaches, and they often do events as well where parents are invited and stuff, and they always invite us as well, then set up a tent or do a quick talk or so. Or when they do like one of the teams that we sponsor is a soccer team here, when they talk to their players who are juniors and seniors in high school about the pathway to college or so, maybe potentially playing in college. They get all the parents, they get all the players together, and these are big decisions for these parents and players and stuff. And they've always invited us to these meetings as well, to
Mhm.
kind of highlight what we do and how we can help enhance their sons or daughters in getting them better in strength and conditioning, because that's often just not focused enough on it, and how we can help them. And it's nice exposure for us. So from that point of view, it's marketing directly to the coaches, and understanding too that with that population, they may not need your services right now, right? But the idea is to stay on top of mind, and that when they do need it, that they then do call you.
Mhm.
And I'm well aware that when I go out there, I may not get a whole list of people signing up right away. I was like, oh, this sounds great. Yeah, I
Right.
want to start doing strength and conditioning. There's a decision process involved. But it's stay on top of mind, because when they do need you, that's when you want them to call you.
Yeah.
And athletes, it doesn't really matter how old they are. Like we're living in this world where there's so many resources available. And just go on chat GPT. Hey, what kind of exercises should I do for you know, an ankle sprain, or what should I do? Or you go on YouTube and there's 1,000 videos available for you to do it. And I always tell people you can do that and you can get to a certain point doing that way. But at some point, to progress past that, to actually get you all the way better, you're gonna need some professional help.
Yeah.
Right. And that's where we come in. And that's how I market it. That's where we kind of find a bit of our niche in the sports medicine world.
Mm-hmm.
It's relatively, and I am exaggerating a little bit here, it's relatively easy to get somebody 70, 80% better, but it's really difficult to really focus on those last 20%, right? To
Mm-hmm.
get you, to get from 0 to 80%, okay, we can all do that. To get from 80 to 90% becomes harder, and 90 to 100% becomes even harder. So why
Yeah.
don't we focus on that last 20%? And that's kind of where we have been able to create a bit of a niche for ourselves. And I use that as a marketing tool to the coaches, to the parents, to the players, to your active adults.
Mm-hmm. That's really cool. And as a parent myself of high school athletes that are trying to get to play in college, I know exactly what you're talking about there. You know, I got exposed to that world because my to give my kids more of an advantage. Okay, we got to really look at strength and conditioning here, right? And there's stuff that they would do on their own, going to the gym, things like that, but it's totally different going to for professional help. And it's amazing when you start to look. There's actually a lot of strength and conditioning, elite athlete type of facilities that are popping up all around the country that's servicing the growing demand for that kind of professional help from whether they're middle school, high school, college, even active adults. um, it's such a growing industry in that. And it's curious to see what you're doing too, because if any of our audience out there, you want to go check it out, go to look up Google St. Pete physical therapy, and on Jan's website he's got awesome details about their strength and conditioning programs and all kinds of other programs that they're offering for the sports side. And so I think what you've done really well is you've really modified the language and the content to speak to the athletes, right? And can you tell us a little bit about kind of what are some of the main things that athletes are going to gravitate towards versus what you might have in like a traditional physical therapy web page, for example?
Yeah, we have developed a website so that it's attractive to athletes. So when people Google St. Pete physical therapy and are looking for sports physical therapy, or an athlete who's looking for physical therapy or sports rehab or so, that it becomes like right away they see, hey, this is a place that could help me. It's we have pictures of athletes on there. We have pictures that we've used, that Practice Promotions has helped us with, like put on there, but also custom pictures from patients of ours in here. There's plenty of pictures of myself on there, right? But in athletic movements, doing these videos on there, we highlight the a lot of athletes that we've treated, or at least the organizations that are involved with, right? Whether
Mhm.
that's cycling clubs, professional soccer referees, high schools, colleges. Here and there, we've had a professional athlete in here, although that's not our main target. So we don't list the names, but we list the organizations they are involved with. And it's prominently featured on the website. So when people click on our website, they see it right away. And that can help them make that decision. This place is geared more towards athletes than another place. And that's exactly what we're trying to do.
Mhm.
I personally, I love a lot of technology. So we do a lot of running analysis, but we go beyond just video analysis. We use a sensor in a belt, essentially. That's pretty much a 3D gait lab. It gives us information about ground reaction forces and left and right balance, and what we call dynamic stability, or the system calls dynamic stability, which is the waste of energy of medial and lateral movement that's not
Mm.
just going into a forward propulsion. We
Yeah.
use force plates. We use handheld dynamometers. We have all the athletic equipment that you could possibly need. So from that point of view, I love those gadgets and I love that. But I think when athletes really want to do athletic rehab, they are looking for some of that objective data as well. They look
Yeah.
for, they want the fancy equipment. I think they want
Hmm.
to see that versus what we sometimes still group physical therapy and in the traditional therapy, where it's a lot of table exercises. And yeah, I've been 5 times, I can do these exercises at home as well. But when we can show objective data that's measured with tools and technology. I think just that's where a profession needs to go as well. We have to keep up with technology.
Right.
Again, that can help make somebody a decision versus where they come to St. Pete Physical Therapy, or they go to a different place.
Yeah, and I think you do a really good job. You have to be able to sell that service, right? And I love what you're talking about there, because what is going to interest an athlete in you versus all the options that they have to treat it on themselves or some other type of solutions. And like you said, you can just go on YouTube and type in all kinds of exercises come pop up, but they're looking for that technology, right? They're looking for the professional help. They're looking for someone that has the history of working with other athletes, right? And so I think you do a very good job on your website of calling those things out, showing them. You have fantastic photos. And I think that is always one thing that I see sets clinics apart, is when they put the effort into their own visuals and videography from within the clinic. It gives you so much ammunition to be able to tell that story to the people that are visiting on your website. Right. And especially when you're speaking to athletes, they need to be able to see all kinds of other athletes working in your facility, what it looks like, the technology there, what's different about coming to you versus doing something on my own, right?
Correct.
So
Yep.
yeah, I think that's a great thing that you're focused on.
Do you want more freedom in your clinic? Then you need to work on your business, not just in it. The top practice owners know that they need a marketing system that consistently attracts patients from the internet. And at Practice Promotions, we've helped hundreds of practice owners skyrocket to the top of Google and get more new patients from online. Go to practicepromotions.net/kit to get our free practice marketing sample kit. It includes all our digital marketing tips and tricks that will get you new patients from Google. That's practicepromotions.net/kit, KIT, for a free marketing kit. And now back to the show.
And what do you find that coaches are concerned about? Like, what kind of language do you try to modify for coaches?
I think coaches in general are still afraid of, my player has to go to physical therapy. That means he's not available to us to play, and that's not necessarily the case.
Mhm.
Sometimes, yes, sometimes a player, just like in professional sports, sometimes players do need to take some time off. But very often, especially injuries that we see, players do not need to take the time off, and it's reassuring them that what we do is constructive to their practice time, to their game time, and sometimes getting coaches to understand too that if a player is not at practice, say once a week or twice a week or so, but they're in physical therapy during that time, that's part of their practice at that time, and it's going to get them better quicker rather than just pushing it off to the side. Or again, what we mentioned earlier, try to just do some of these exercises on your own. And while those may be good exercises, we all know, are you doing them correctly? Are you doing the right amount? Is that really the best exercise for you? Right? While that may not be a bad exercise, is that really the best thing for you to do to get you better quicker? So I think that's where coaches are still the most afraid of. Is just,
Mhm.
can do I still have access to them? And I make sure that all the coaches, they have my cell phone. There's a direct line of communication. They need anything, they know they can text me anytime, call me, right, and vice versa too. Hey, player A is doing great. Player B is not so good at this moment. I'll call them up and it's a quick discussion about it, and just being on the same team. I think and it reassures the parents. It reassures the players as well. Right?
Yeah.
It's about being on the same team. It's not us versus them, or like we just do our own thing. Let's all coordinate together.
Mhm. I love what what you're focused on there, and that is, I think when you have, in like a traditional orthopedic, you're most of the time directly related to the patient, right? You tend to be a bit older. They're an adult. You're typically talking, right to the patient. But in this instance, where you have more of a sports program, you could be dealing just with an adult patient, right, who's an athlete, or you could be dealing with their coach, right? And you could be dealing, if they're younger, it could be with their parent. And so you have multiple people that are connected. And in a case where the kid could have a great opportunity to play on a college team, like that's a lot on the line for that family, right? And also for the coaches. And so they want to know, they want to be in the know. And obviously, I'm sure you got to work obviously with, HIPAA rules and stuff like that. But
Sure.
but still, you have more people involved in care, right? Rather than
Yep.
just a patient therapist relationship. There's a lot more dynamics, and I love that you focus on that. And I think that's something for our audience to take away if you are thinking about a sports program, is that there probably has to be a bit more networking, a bit more sharing of information, keep everybody informed, because that creates a lot of marketing power when when you're presenting the results, right? When things are actually improving and you've got projection and timelines, they feel really good about sending other people to you because there's that good communication flow that's happening from the clinic to the family and the coach.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's building trust with them, and it's being realistic with them as well, right? And athletes, of course, they want to hear that they can play. Parents want to hear that they can play. Coaches want to hear that they can play. And when talking about athletes, again, all ages, they want to be able to do what they enjoy. But it's being realistic with them and setting
Mhm.
realistic expectations. And when it comes to when it's not a clear cut, let's say an ACL tear or something, and we have to do the rehab after, but they're still playing. They're dealing with an ankle sprain or a bit of a hamstring, like a quad tendonitis or so, let's say, right? Or we're dealing with a rotator cuff tendinopathy, anything like that. It's really hard to put a timeline on there, and so being realistic with them and sending the right expectations right from the get go, I think is really important.
Yeah, awesome.
Again, to
And so
build that trust.
yeah, I love it. So I have noticed, again, through your website, just all the different programs that you've built and that you've offered there. And again, for our audience out there, definitely go to St. Pete, physical therapy. They have a really awesome website content and structure for the programs that they offer, and I think it's a great way to see, like, there is a lot of different things that you can offer within the sports medicine and strength and conditioning realm. And so, can you help us understand what are some of the programs that you've seen to be successful in your practice from the athlete and the fitness model?
Yeah, so we do strength and conditioning programs here, where it's really focused on strength and conditioning. Of course, we do physical therapy and rehab, and then very often, because of our nature of working here, I think people in general enjoy coming here, and that's our goal, right? They feel better, and then our goal is to have them keep working with us, or at least keep guiding them. We do workshops as well. We've done running workshops, and I like to do these in collaboration with other professionals. So running workshops I've done with a personal trainer before who focuses a lot on runners as well. But
Mhm.
it helps bring in. We both know people. We're connected in different ways in the community, so we reach a bigger audience. And people like it when you work together with other personal trainers or healthcare professionals or whatever it may be. We have a baseball workshop coming up soon. I'm doing that with a coach, like a baseball coach.
Love it.
We're working on a soccer workshop. We're working on a volleyball workshop. So making these things like very sport specific as well, rather than too general.
Hmm.
So trying to make it very specific, and in the end, it comes down to what we know best and what we do. Right? It's rehab and it's injury prevention. These things, but how can we tie it in specifically to that sport? And athletes get injured. It's part of playing sports, and at some point may need us. And it's our goal is to get people in seats over here, so you see our facility. They kind of get to know who we are, so that if something does happen, hopefully they pick up the phone and call us.
And I love what you were just saying there because especially with this population. So if you are going to run a sports program, strength and conditioning program, whatever you may do in your practice, if you just label it as sports medicine, it's very generic, right? Athletes want to go to the specialist that can help them with their specific sport. It's kind of like that mentality of, if I'm a soccer player, I want to go to a soccer specialist, right? If I'm a
Yep.
baseball player, I want to go to a baseball specialist. We know, like, you can obviously treat many many different people who play different sports, but to them it's like getting to be with the best possible person, right? So I love what you do there, from the workshops to the website. Like, you're calling out soccer programs, you're calling out baseball programs, runners, tennis players. You're gonna, if I'm a athlete online and I'm looking for help and I play tennis, I'm gonna look for, like, tennis, medical professional or something like that, whatever it is.
Um,
So
mhm.
you're really calling them out specific. I love what you've done with that.
And that goes, it kind of takes us back to what you mentioned earlier about the coaches as well. It's making sure that the patient and the coach and the parent understand too that, I'm staying in my lane. Rehab is my specialty. I am not your coach. And I make that very clear too. It's like, and to the coaches as well. I'm not here to coach and I'm not here to change your technique. That's up to the coaches, right? So staying in the lane, and that builds trust with that as well. And that's where we are the specialist in sports, right? Variety of sports that we can do there, but we're not the coaches. Right. So we're from that point of view, we're not the specialist or the specialist in a specific sport.
Yeah. I'm curious because you've done a lot more online marketing, you've done on the ground networking, right, with coaches and athletes and stuff. And I'm just curious, has that helped you back engineer any relationships with orthopedic docs and physicians by any chance?
Yeah, it actually has. There's a few physicians that I am relatively close with, who I can, there's an athlete and especially, let's say, runners, because I work a lot with runners. Anytime somebody comes in here with complaints of shin pain, a red flag always goes up for, what is this? Is this shin splints, or could this be a bone stress injury? There happens to be a really good physician here in Tampa who I can easily refer to. I text their office, text the MA, and very often patients are, if they can, of course, patients are in there the same day or the next day. And these are great relationships that I've built. So my network of doctors, I like to say, is like a mile deep and an inch wide versus like a mile wide and an inch deep. So it's
Right.
a couple of very meaningful relationships that I have with doctors who we refer back and forth, and I trust these doctors. And that helps again with patients as well. Sometimes they do need to go see a doctor. I can't always diagnose everything. I can't always fix everything. And sometimes a medical doctor is necessary. And then that helps build trust, and it's easy to get somebody in, unless of course they have a preference where they would go, or they have a family friend or a family member who's an orthopedic doc. Of course, then I'm not going to interfere with that pathway. But otherwise, it's definitely built those relationships.
Yeah, and that's awesome. I talk about that a lot, where if we can be more direct to consumer marketing, right, in the profession, and you're really embodying that, like you've really kind of taken that and gone more direct to that consumer, you can work out those relationships with physicians. And so it's been a big shift for PT over the decades, where it used to be so heavy on physician referrals and that being the only thing. And some clinics are still stuck there a little bit, right? They're starting to evolve and change to some direct to consumer marketing. But if you find in your practice that you're um, for our audience out there, if you find that you're still very heavy on physician referrals, you need to balance that out with direct to consumer marketing, because you should be able to, again, build relationships if you can refer to doctors. And especially in the sports case, I think sports programs, that does happen occasionally where you do make the referrals out. So that's wonderful to hear how you've been able to approach that.
It just takes work, takes time to build those relationships. It's like I said earlier, it's the people may not need you right away. While in the doctor's office, that there's at least a handful of people that could use your services right away. While you go to a sports team or a coach, or you go set up an event, let's say at a 5K or a 10K or so, they may not need your services, or they're not aware that they need your services. So it just takes a little more time. But it's really about building those relationships there, and just getting out there and immersing yourself in the community.
That's awesome. So let's talk a little bit about your website, which it's just absolutely awesome, the effort that you put into that, and it's really the hub of your marketing efforts, from social media to Google Ads. And I know that we helped you with your website redesign and everything last year. So I'm just curious for you, like what gravitated you towards deciding to redesign your website, and what made you choose us?
Well, when I started St. Pete Physical Therapy, I tried to do it on my own. And I can laugh about this now, but in the beginning, it was like, why am I not getting any sort of, people calling me from my website? It's like, it just wasn't getting any traction. I would ask different people, hey, can you Google St. Pete Physical Therapy? And it'd be on the third page somewhere, just completely hidden away. And because I put a lot of effort into it, I thought, oh, beautiful website. This is great. Right. And then with the name St. Pete Physical Therapy, I was like, no problem. Somebody Googles that, I'll be top of the list. A couple of months in, I realized that just was not the case, and started learning more about Google Analytics, and realized if I want to build a practice that I want to build, with the direct to consumer marketing and specifically to athletes in the niche that I want to build, I'm gonna need some help. And then I started looking around, and practice promotions popped up often. And before I committed, I was reluctant at first. It's I was new, cost a lot of money. Yeah, it's just I was like, can I do this? Can I not do this? And had a couple of phone calls before I committed, but eventually just liked they directed me to multiple of your customers, multiple sites, and liked what they did. I called up a few of your customers and just asked them, how the results were, and they all had good things to say. So at some point, I just decided for myself, I'm gonna just take the risk here, and it's been great ever since. I'm happy I've done it because it's really transformed our business, and it's really helped me market to exactly the customer, or the patient that we want to see in here.
Awesome. And where do you pop up now on Google?
Very high, yeah, very high, and multiple
Good.
categories. So yeah, people can Google us. And that's where you were talking earlier about physician referrals and balancing it out. I don't know the exact number, but I'd be willing to put money on it that our 80% of referrals come through our website and Google. We get very, very few like physician referrals, except for the physicians that I have very good relationships with. But other physicians, very few of those. So the majority of the people that call us, they find us by Googling us or the Google ads, or directly going to our website.
Fantastic. Yeah, it gives you much more power in your pocket, right? And more control and more stability when you know, hey, I can, if I need to, you know, jazz things up this month, right? You can put a little bit more spend on that and get the flow in there, but it gives you the consistency over time.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah,
think
and it's been very consistent. When I look at month over, it's been a growing trend, which is great, which is of course what we want to
awesome.
have. But the referrals there's consistent growth with it, or at least they say very consistent. When sometimes when you market to physicians, depending on the time of the year, something there's a lot of fluctuations.
Mhm.
I pretty much know where I'm going to land with referrals, right? And it tends to always be depending, of course, the month of the year. Holidays are make it a little difficult, but that's just the nature of the game.
Right.
But in general, I know that we're going to be okay with referrals. So it's not something that I worry about too much.
Awesome. And your story is very common, right? That you try to build. I built my own website in my practice back in like gosh, the first website was like 2002, 2003, something like that. And a very, very basic website back then, and you could do a lot easier with SEO than you can today. But there's so much technicality to it, right? And putting a website together on Wix or Squarespace and just having something look nice with some photos, it's nice to have some. It's better than nothing, right?
Yeah,
But if there's a lot of complexity to the website because you're trying to have it do its main job, which is to actually sell people as they come to visit it. And then secondly, you're trying to get people to find it, right? And then you got to play nice with Google and the other search engines and how it's structured in that regard. So there's a lot that goes into a website to make it both behavior friendly and then also, discoverable to the search engines with that. So it's very common that we try to do stuff on our own because obviously we're trying to work on a shoestring budget starting off. But there comes a point where we need to level up in our marketing systems, right? And a website is one of your critical things, just like your online storefront to the world, right? So
yeah.
we did that. And then you also started to kick in a bit more with your Google ads. So how have you found that impacted in your practice?
I think Google Ads has been really, really helpful. Like you mentioned earlier, the majority of our patients find us, or new patients find us via Google Ads, I think. And it's nice. Monthly we have a meeting call with the Google Ad specialist, and things get adjusted there continuously, which is nice. We've tried different things, adding some different subcategories and stuff, and sometimes it works, and sometimes it wasn't as successful as we wanted to. But it's nice that there's constantly being worked on. And yeah, Google Ads. I can't say that without Google Ads, I wouldn't actually. I know without Google Ads, I wouldn't be where we are with the business right now.
Mhm.
But it's been very, very helpful.
Yeah, awesome. And it's one of those things that over the years has just become more and more necessary, right? And that's the way Google makes money, right? That they want you to pay to play. And so if you really want to be at the top of Google, the very top of Google, like you got to pay to be there. And that's why Google Ads is really a necessity. The key thing is, again, if you try to do Google Ads without professional help, you can get them up there, you can get them running. You may get some results, but you can blow a lot of money and really not know what's working with that. So I'm glad that you mentioned that it's ups and downs with that too, because there's so much fluctuation in Google. It's a battle for the top. You got all these other industries and facilities and stuff competing for those same keywords. So it's, Google's always, making that fight for the top there. So they do need to be adjusted on a very frequent basis. And so it's good that, we have you going in our program there. Our specialists are working on that for you to overcome.
That's another thing I tried to do on my own in the beginning, Google Ads, and I forget exactly what I was paying, but it was more than double. Yeah, I was paying per click, I think, than what I'm paying right now. And for people that are listening too, when I talk to some of my friends who are lawyers or so, like in personal injury lawyers and stuff, what we as physical therapists pay per click is nothing compared to what they have to pay.
Right.
So it's, of course it all costs money, but everything costs money. Marketing is expensive, but it's, if you want to attract the specific patient that you want, and that brings us joy, and the numbers all work out, then it's just necessary, and it's really helpful in the end. I'm sure you do it, I do it, my wife does it, some all my staff does it. When we need something, we pull out our cell phone, right? Hey Siri, where do I go for physical therapy or so? Or we type it in, we look at Google reviews, we see the top things that are sponsored or they're just up there. We're just more likely to click on it, and I do it myself. There goes Siri. I do it myself as well for other services that I have. So why would people not do it for physical therapy, right? And you want to attract certain people, that's what you have to do.
Yeah, I think it's almost close to 70% of scheduled appointments are from online searches. So it's, again, you got to be up there, you got to be fighting for the top, you got to use as many tools as you can to be up there, but that's what's going to help you get the calls and the appointments through the website. And yes, and again, when it comes to Google Ads, it's like you said, I think it's very funny because attorneys, the keywords there, back pain, for example, could be super expensive. You might be paying, just for a click, like 10, 15, $20, right? When it comes to everyone's, and that's not even a person that actually, becomes a patient in the door. So we do have it pretty easy when it comes to marketing, as cost-wise compared to other industries. But the key thing here to think about too is that, on whole, for small businesses, the Small Business Association, from their surveys, most small businesses are paying anywhere from 5 to 10%. That's sort of like a normal rule of what they make in a year goes towards marketing actions. Typically, for medical practice, it's going to be like 5 to 8%. Depends on how aggressive you want to, grow your practice. But what I find is that a majority of PT clinics specifically, they're typically spending less than 2%. And then they're struggling and they're wondering why they just don't have enough. And then they're trying to do things themselves. They're not getting a good return on their investment. And they're like, oh, marketing doesn't work. Right. So the thing is, marketing then does become expensive because it's not working. And marketing is expensive when it doesn't work. When it works, it's a great investment. Right. And so that's right. You should be getting 5 to 10 times what you put into your marketing, back in terms of revenue. So Jan, you've given us some amazing insights here today, and all your accomplishments in building your sports programs and your strength and conditioning programs in your facility. Is there any final words of advice if a clinic's thinking about implementing or starting up a sports program in their clinic?
Yeah, I think what I have always valued a lot for myself in my professional career and personal growth and stuff as well is keep learning. There's a ton of information out there, and a lot of the marketing I have learned, a lot of the confidence that I have gotten in to build this business, but also in the marketing that I do, and knowing, what, I can focus on this specific group of patients. Well, we see some other people as well, but mainly this group of people, and not feeling that we need to see everybody else's. Just listening. I listen to a lot of podcasts, a lot of variety of podcasts. a lot of marketing podcasts, to be honest, because I find it fascinating. It's the language that you need to speak, the sales, it's you have to be able to convert on those and the confidence and stuff. And there's lots of people that do it, and I was just like, why not me? Why can't I do this too? So it's any advice I would say, just keep learning, find different resources to learn, and don't be afraid to ask questions. Just earlier today, I had a guy who I went to actually was a year behind me in PT school, right? So I probably haven't seen him in over 15, 16 years. He texted me earlier today. He's like, looking to start my own business. Can I ask you for some advice and stuff? And it's like, reach out to former friends, colleagues. Like, no matter how long it's been, I did the same thing when I started. Reach out to my my very first boss, who I haven't seen. I've sometimes chat with him, but haven't really seen him in over 10 years, and just reach out to him, a couple questions, and keep learning and ask questions, and don't be afraid of that. We're all there at some point, and even with the business, I have a ton of questions on a lot of things. So I don't know if that ever changes. So,
I don't
know if that ever changes. So
yeah, always learning. I'm always learning. Keep figuring things out, right? Because to get to that next level, you got to learn what it takes to get to that next level, right? So that's the game. That's the game of business, and so it's
correct.
Thank you so much for your wisdom here today, Jan. It's been a pleasure having you on here and learning. Congratulations on all your success there with your practice and helping lots and lots of athletes. And I wish you much success into the future.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure being on, and hopefully it was helpful.
Awesome. Thank you. And to our audience out there, thank you so much for listening here today. Don't forget to subscribe to our Practice Marketing Podcast, also our YouTube channel. We got don't forget our Facebook and Instagram, and then practicepromotions.net has a bunch of marketing advice for you on there too. So this is Neil Trickett from Practice Promotions and the Practice Marketing Podcast, wishing you much success in your practice.
A free way for you to support our show is by leaving a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts. It's a chance for you to tell us what you love about the show, and it helps others discover it as well. Just scroll down to ratings and review on your phone and click write a review. Thanks.